Hello everybody and welcome to another photography talk, and this time inspired by all the Oscars win by Oppenheimer, the movie. I want to talk about is it film better than digital? Before we begin, as usual, if you want to support the channel, please put a like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want to go a step further, check out my books on my website. You can find different books, from technical books to a novel. And check out the sponsor, that is La Dolce Vita Workshops. Great workshops, not many spots available right now, so hurry up and subscribe if you want to be updated for other workshops that will come in the fall season and next year. This said, let's talk about this film versus digital. The matter is kind of trendy right now because a few days ago the movie Oppenheimer won a lot of Oscars, of awards, and the movie is made with film. All the movies made with film. And the movie also got an Oscar for the cinematography. And the cinematographer, that is Hoyt van Hoytema, and I hope I pronounced it correctly, when he accepted the Oscar in his speech, he told just basically one thing, except for the usual thank you to all the people around. He said to all aspiring filmmakers out there, I love to say, please try shooting that incredible new hip thing called celluloid. It's much easier than you think and makes things look much better. So this was something that was kind of strange to hear in the acceptance speech, and it's something that obviously was reported by a lot of different media. So is it true that film makes everything look so much better? And this is the question. If you know me and you follow my channel, probably you know the answer already, or at least my opinion, but here I want to give you some explanation of this, and I want to start with a technical aspect. First of all, we have to talk about the resolution. If you think right now the standard for movies is the 4K. Yes, there's an 8K or something like that, but the standard used is 4K. And 4K means that the image has around 4000 pixels on the horizontal side. And that means actually is 3008 something, and so if you think about that, it means that is an equivalent to an image we can create with 8 to 12 megapixel sensor, depends on the ratio and so on. So let's say a 10 megapixel sensor, and that is very low compared to what we do with photography right now. 10 megapixels was the beginning, 12 megapixels was my Canon 5D, my first Canon 5D at the time, and it's very low resolution. And you have to think that a movie is projected on a very huge screen in a movie theater. That is something that will show a lot the lack of resolution. If we are looking at images or movies, we would think to look at them on a very small device on our phone. Some people look movie at their phone. I don't know how they do it, but on our phone or a computer or just a television, that can be not that bad. But if we want to project the movie on a very huge screen, then it becomes very evident the lack of resolution. If you shoot film, in this case, all the movie was shot with a 60 millimeter film. And on a 60 millimeter wide film, you are an equivalent of 150 megapixel. So that's much more information. And if you project the image on a large screen, you really will see the difference. I know what you are saying right now, that we anyway look at the film, look at the movies projected with the digital projector, and this is a truth. So it's true that we are some way limited by our device that used to watch the movie. But still, when we record the movie, if we have a film and if we have a wide film like 60 millimeters, we get much more information. And to have more information when you record, also if you will be limited in the vision on the display, but to have much more information means also to have much more details and a bigger capacity to for the sensor of the film to capture the light. This is the difference when we see an image taken with a camera, a digital camera that is a modern camera with a larger sensor compared to a smaller sensor. We don't see just the difference in resolution, but we see the difference also in the way the light is captured and the precision of how the light is captured and so on. So also if we downgrade the information in a second step, is much better to start with a lot of information and downgrade, not starting with low information. So as a resolution, at this time a film is absolutely much better. The second aspect that we have to consider is the curve response to the light. And here there's something that we have to really analyze and go a little bit technical. And I show you what I mean. If we have our usual graph, when we put on an x-axis, we put the light that arrive on the subject, and in the y-axis we put the density from total black to pure white. In this case I think in positive, but that can be imagined in negative if you want to think that movies are recorded in negative and then printed. But let's say we're thinking positive. Film as a curve that is very peculiar, is something that is like that. And you see that there's a little bit of the area in the direct light when the low light arrives, and this is an area that is very delicate with film. You cannot recover the low lights that well. We have the linear part of the film, and that is used for the main subjects, obviously, and we have the area of the highlights. And the highlights have something that is absolutely important, that with the film the highlights get compressed and we can put a lot of light on the film and just have this compression, and that goes on a lot. And I show you here two images that I did. I did an article a couple of years ago, I think, it was comparing what is digital with film using Fujifilm X-Pro 2. I used the camera because Fuji is goes a lot with the film simulation, and the Acros film simulation for black and white is one of the kind of most advertised film simulation. So I decided to do a comparison of film and digital with that. And I used a medium format, it was a Pentax 67 in these images, in others I used an Hasselblad, but a medium format film compared with the camera. And you can see here that in the highlights with the film we can almost see, I don't say the details of the sun, but we can still perceive all the little branches of the tree in front of the sun, while with the digital all disappears in a white hole. And that's a problem, that is the difference between film and digital. As I say, the curve of film is like this. So we have the area of the highlights that is almost infinite. We can go on and still get something in there. Digital, on the opposite, is totally different. With digital, we have this the area of the dark area, that is something that is kind of infinite, and we go on where we can have a signal that is superior to the noise. So it's a matter of relation between signal and noise, and we can recover a lot the shadows. If you are used to digital, it's very easy to just get a slider of the shadow in your post-production software and get a lot of details from the shadows, something that is not that possible with film. But what digital does in the highlights, arrive at the point, and when the pixels, call them pixels or photodiodes, are saturated with the light, you have no more detail. It's pure white. So we see it in the images that I show you. You arrive at the saturation level and you lose all possible details. And there's another thing that is really making a difference, is that the transition between a dark area and a very bright area with film is a very smooth transition, and we see it in this curve. In the digital version, you go from some detail to nothing. So it is a very hard transition, and we can see it in the highlights of all the digital images. And again, here you can see the difference in the files that I made when I did the comparison. So this difference in the curve really create a different perception, a different way to record reality. We have to remember that when we record reality, we have a dynamic range that is enormous in the scenes we look at. We can have a range that is 10,000 to 1, so the highlight can be 10,000 times brighter than the dark light and so on. Every sensor or film has a much less capability to show this difference. So we have to compress the 10,000 to 1 to something that is around a few hundreds to 1. So in doing this, if we do it in different ways with these different curves that are different relation curves from digital and film, we really interpret the subject in a different way. By the way, with digital, something that is very interesting to do when we convert the raw from the raw to the rasterized image with our normal software. I use a lot of time Capture One, so I refer to that, but all other software have the same possibility usually. You can select a curve. The sensor from the camera is absolutely linear, so no light to highlight is absolutely a straight line. When we convert, we can choose a curve, and in Capture One you can choose a curve that is linear, and you can see with that the real response of the sensor, and you see that is absolutely not natural. It's something that is absolutely makes the images kind of strange, because our eyes have a curve that is similar to the film. Our eyes are probably because they are analog, but have a curve that's similar to the film. And I give you an example. If you, a lot of time, you're driving around, you're arriving in a place where, I don't know, you're in the middle of the trees or buildings in a small street, and you have the shadow on the road, and you have the lights on the top, and you enter, and you see just darkness. Then your eye adapts and you start to see in the darkness, you see the road, you see everything, you see all the details in the darkness, but the highlights, they become just something that is soft, and you can still perceive everything, because you can still perceive if there are trees over your head or a building or something like that, but it's not not that precise, it's just a perception, and this is exactly what the film gives you. And our human eyes are not that easy to adapt to the dark, so we don't mind if the dark areas are not that evident or something like that. We are focused on the mid-zones, and we can keep the highlight very compressed but still present. So it's totally different from what is the digital curve, where you have a lot of dark areas, and the highlights at a certain point are totally cut. If you just take a look at how is again going in a dark alley, you can imagine that. Talking about the curve, there is another aspect where film, in my opinion, is very superior to digital. And this that with digital we arrived to this sensor with a lot of dynamic range, also with the option to do HDR and so on. And sometimes we have too much range. I made a video a few days ago, and you can check the link here, and it's about a photograph that I took in an abbey that is a beautiful place, San Giovanni in Venere, in the Abruzzo region of Italy, where I describe this fact that you enter in the crypt of this church, and you have this darkness that at a certain point became, you can adapt and start to see the things in the darkness, and there's the light coming from the windows that really is overwhelm everything. So you see this light coming in that is absolutely something very soft that gives you this idea of the light, the something that you can touch, but is really invading everything. And that example is exactly what I say when I think that digital can become too much. If I have to take digital image of that of the same situation, usually we tend to also because the highlights with digital are the critic part, so you lose every detail if you don't keep them absolutely inside the histogram. So what we tend is to do the kind of HDR, the situation where we see all the details in the highlights, very precise, everything we can see, really every particular of the place, and we can see absolutely fantastically well also the dark area, and the lights become flat. And that is something that is not our human perception. Our eyes don't see that much range. We can perceive it because we look around, we move our eyes, and so if I look at the light areas, my pupils are very fast to close down, and so I perceive every detail of the highlights out of the windows. But if I look there, I lose the dark areas here. It's just the perception. I move, I see all the details. So our brain put together those images and give us an idea of kind of all the details, but is something that is an artifact, is not the exact response of our eyes. And when we talk about something that is scientific, that can make sense, that we make an image with all the information, because our brain can get all the information with multiple movements of our eyes. But if we talk about an emotion is usually something that is a moment. So if I turn around and look out of the windows, I see absolutely something bright. I don't see something that is brought back to the central part of our curve. So this is the difference. I think that film is much more natural. The third point is the conversion from analog to digital. And the world is analog. When we go to digital, we do a process of conversion. The process of conversion is something that introduces a lot of limits and a lot of problems, I would say. And how does it work? At that point, we have to look out for the quality. Going to digital versus analog is that to go from an analog world to a digital world, we have a conversion process. And it depends on many factors, but in any case, if we have a signal that is continuous in analog, in digital, this will become something made at steps. Obviously, the resolution of the steps depends on the number of bits that we can use to convert the signal and so on. But we go from a continuous signal to a signal that is made with steps. In the case of 4K movies, for example, we are talking 10 bits. 10 bits means that the infinite number we have from 0 to infinite, the maximum values, to the total dark, to the light. In analog, that can be an infinite number of values, becomes 1000 values, 1000 different discrete values. And that is a little bit of a problem. And it's a problem because if we think at the curve that is really soft or something like that, the resolution, the 10 bits for example, is enough to let's say confuse our mind and perceive it as a continuous tone. But if we are going in a very step passage, for example from total dark to total light, we can notice that in there we don't have really much steps. So at the end of the game we see really the difference, and we can see it in the highlights, in the images a lot. What I showed you before, I can show you it again. The fact that in analog we perceive still the branches of the trees in front of the sun, and we cannot do that in digital. And it's because also of this lack of values to describe that step. It's something that all the little nuances when we convert the signal in digital, in some way we stretch them and we create everything that is made in steps. And so that process is really limiting the tonalities that we can have in our images. So yes, analog in this way is much better, and it's the same with the music. If we think about going from listening at the concert live or listening an MP3, there's a lot of difference. And also when we talk about going from analog to digital, there's not just let's say the number of bits, and so this not creating steps in the signal, but there's also another problem, that we have a pattern of sensors, we can call them pixels, that are square in the images. So the grain of our film is something that is organic, is very small, and it's very irregular, so it's kind of natural. The sensor of camera is a square sensor, and we will have a square pixel. And all the square forms in nature are not natural. And if we are doing, for example, if we have a line that is a diagonal line, with our analog photography, it stays a diagonal line. We can have a little bit of noise on the line made by the grain, but still is there. With pixels we have all steps, so it becomes something that is kind of square, and our eyes perceive everything that is square as not natural. And we have another problem, that if we think a diagonal line that is perfect, it's still a good thing. Horizontal line will be perfect, vertical line will be perfect, diagonal will have these steps but still in a regular way. If we have just a little bit tilted line, we will have very long steps to describe the line, and this will be perceived by our brain as something that is not natural. Also, we are talking about movies, so all these will be in a movement where we see all these kind of steps stretch and become little again, and all this kind of thing. All this gives us a sense of not natural. A fourth aspect that we have to consider that is a problem of digital is the compression. When we do photography, it's very easy to, if we get the RAW from our cameras, we keep it RAW and keep, for example, the rasterized format in TIFF. We have no compression, so we maintain the value for each pixel as it was recorded by the camera and so on. For the movies, the compression is needed because we have a lot of images that we have to transfer in some way, and the band for 4K movies is around 15 megabps or something like that, but that's still very limited. So with the analog film, we have every single frame with all the information that goes on. With digital, there's a compression because we transfer only, for example, the pixel, the information about the pixel that changed compared to the image before, the frame before, and all these kind of things. But that is all a compromise because it's like with when we go from the TIFF to the JPEG. That is, yes, JPEG decide to consider pixels that are different pixels that are similar values, consider them with the same value. So we see all these big squares in the JPEGs if you use a very high level of compression. And it's the same with movie multiplied by a lot of time because really there's a need to compress everything. And this compression really take off a lot of quality. And if we use the compression as at the last moment when we just project the movie, for example, if we compare with photography, if we keep the TIFF, 16-bit and everything else high level until we, for example, create a JPEG to send to someone online, the JPEG can be not too bad and the compression can be kind of a compromise, but still a decent compromise. If we start taking the pictures with a very low level, with a very high compression, with lower bits and so on. So if we go, for example, in movies, using just the 10 bits and using the H265, that is the compression algorithm, already when we record the movie, we really lose a lot of information from the beginning. It's like when we go to shoot in JPEG, just 8-bit and so on, we process the image, and at the end we have a much worse quality than if we started with the raw file. So that's the same difference, and in the movies we cannot really use these very high quality digital things because we need the compression, because it's almost impossible to have a band big enough to go on. So the film at the end has much more information, and it has no compression at all. And that's another thing that is absolutely great, because yes, the compression algorithm decide what is the pixel that changed from the precedent frame and this, but what is considered a change is like in the JPEG when we say, okay, what is considered a different value or the same value to put them together. So I don't know if I had been clear about this, but absolutely avoiding all the compressions with film, that is something fantastic. And by the way, I see it a lot when I work in the darkroom and I do all the prints in the darkroom. At the end is totally another feeling than not going on a digital version. So we talked about the technical aspects and why on the technical aspects I think film is far superior to digital. But there's something that is not technical, and there's something that is I see in photography every time I use film, and I see it every day, and on the movie is the same, is that with the film you really cannot screw up things starting. You cannot have an infinite number of redo the sheen or something like that, because it's a cost, and you cannot think I will fix this in post-production, I will fix this with some computer generated graphic and so on. So you have to get it right from the beginning. You have to get the light perfectly right from the beginning, and you see some scenes in the movie Oppenheimer where the light is perfectly studied and gives a sense of a very natural light. I see a lot of scenes in the movies and I think, wow, that was a good work. The light was measured perfectly, was created perfectly, and everything was done correctly at the moment of the shooting. And that is something that is absolutely important, because it brings the director and cinematographer and everybody else to be really focused in creating something that is beautiful starting with. So that's an aspect that in the movies is absolutely important also in photography. Again, I see it in photography. We usually tend to take a ton of pictures and not connect our brain so much. In the movies, it's the same thing. If you shoot with film, you will have to connect your brain, and that is absolutely essential. Another thing that is very important when a film is chosen as a medium, uh, everything becomes different. Right now, we look at thousands of movies that are basically computer generated with computer graphic. They have ton and ton of scenes that are just generated with computer graphic. That's something that you cannot do. So also, for example, a lot of action movies that really I start to hate, if I have to be honest, but they have all these absurd scenes that what I call Matrix style with the ralliancy of the action and all these kind of things is something that all that with film must be avoided. And we go back to movies that are based on what is the ability of the actors and what is the plot and all these kind of things. If I think about great movies like I don't know, The Mountain with Spencer Tracy, something that is nothing. It's just the ability, the face of Spencer Tracy that can transfer all the feelings of this climb on the mountain. Or I don't know, Rear Window is another movie that is a must for photographers. And all that is based on the acting, on the scenes, and these kind of things. It's basically nothing else that a room and a window in front. There's no other set, there's nothing else. But still, it's a fantastic movie that can really keep you inside the movie for a long time. So, avoiding all these computer graphing and all these kind of things is bringing us back to that kind of movie. This said, I think that is why I consider film much better. Yes, it's not portable. We have sacrificed the quality with the portability. We did it in music. In music, we had absolute quality, and we went to MP3 because MP3 is portability, but the quality of MP3 really sucks. So also there, you can see that if you listen rap music, really, MP3 or other things, you don't care. It's just a basic rhythm with nothing else. If you think of Beethoven in MP3, it sucks because you cannot listen all the details of an orchestra and everything else without good quality of the recording system. With movies it's the same, and the film will show all the problems that you can have in the movie. So you cannot overcover that with exactly post-production or digital things. And so at the end of the game pushes you to be a better director, a better cinematographer, and so on. And it's the same in photography. I always say that if you want to push yourself to be a better photographer, use film sometime. I don't use film for 100% of my work. When I do a lot of production, I do it in digital because that's the portability and everything else is really important. But you have to challenge yourself with film, and this is the same in the movies. And to sacrifice all the quality for portability is something that is absolutely wrong in my opinion. We did with MP3, and we are doing it with movies, and that's not a good trend. By the way, I read a lot of comments online, people telling, yeah, but going back with technology or something like that. Actually, going back when we have technology can be great. It's not going back. It's just to realize that technology is not always the answer for everything. And we can use technology for a lot of things when it's convenient to use that, but it can be not use, and we can go back. We can try with technology. I went back with music, for example. I started at some point to listen to MP3s, and I was no, this sucks, and I went back, and I still love to use vinyls, and I like to use CDs. I prefer vinyls to CDs, but because I choose equality, I don't want the portability. Yes, if I'm in my car or with the radio or something that is just in front of the computer and putting some music in the background, yes, MP3 is okay, but if I want really listen music, I want something that is better. So going back in technology a lot of time can be great. We have this kind of habit right now that everything that is technological seems the solution to everything, but actually it is not. It can be not the solution. Um, and we can see in our life we decide to enter in a lot of technological stuff, and we are not better than before as wealth and all these kind of things. In the last years, a lot of the technological development were not good, and yes, we can go back. You see the electrical cars, it was a try, and now there's all the major companies like GM, Honda, and so on that decided no, it's not the solution, and they are going back. So it's not a problem. And I think also in when we create art, uh, it's not this. It's not bad to go back and to use technologies that are not the new thing, but still are absolutely great and can let us express much better, and we don't become slaves of the technology. This said, I'm pretty sure this video is absolutely long, so this is my opinion. By the way, about the movie Oppenheimer, I watched it. Beautiful photography, absolutely fantastic. The direction is absolutely great. I see a lot of things that are absolutely great technically in the movie. The plot, these actors that are always sad, like if they were keeping the weight of the world on their shoulder and all these kind of things. I found it really kind of boring, if I have to be honest. I read, I'm passionate about physics, I studied physics, so I read a lot of books where people talk about the Manhattan Project. For example, there's Feynman that talks about it, and I always found this enthusiasm of young scientists finding all together with no budget limits and so on, and there's all this positive passion that goes on. They were joking, they was doing the normal life of young people with a great budget and the possibility to research things that were fantastic to discover. And yes, they were aware that there was a bomb involved, but they were also aware that they were on the right side of that. So to see this movie that is heavy, heavy, always with sad faces, with few expression and this kind of things from the beginning, yes, I didn't find that a very good thing. So this said, thank you for watching. I hope this gave you an idea of why film is better, and see you next time, and I promise you with a shorter video. Thank you for watching, see you next time.